have provided Kenya shillings, 3.7 billion Kenya shillings for the confirmation of interns who are in the health sector, as Honorable Speaker, for them to be confirmed into permanent and pensionable terms. Honorable Speaker, Kenya, part of the reason why Kenya is largely informal in terms of the nature of our economy is that we are still agrarian. And Honorable Speaker, this is not something to be proud of. When we measure the economy, we measure economy using two things. One is economic growth, Honorable Speaker, and in that, Honorable Speaker, we do qualitative and quantitative. What I've been doing is reporting GDP and the rest. That is quantitative, Honorable Speaker. But we also need to look at the other areas around how people are, how the economy is performing qualitatively, Honorable Speaker. And I say so because majority of Kenyans are engaged in farming, in agriculture. It is not something to be proud of because one of the measures of a country growing or economic growth of a country, Honorable Speaker, is having agriculture contributing less to the economy, not more. In fact, one of the definitions of an economy that has grown, of a developed economy, is an economy whose involvement of agriculture in terms of GDP is less than 10%. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, however, we also have to look at where we are. We are a developing country, not a developed one. And therefore, most of the Kenyans are engaged in agriculture. What we have done in agriculture is this, Honorable Speaker. We have provided Kenya shillings 7.5 billion that will go into fertilizer subsidy. And this time, Honorable Speaker, fertilizer subsidy will be both for food crops and also cash crops. The coffee farmers, the tea farmers, the food farm, maize farmers and the rest, Honorable Speaker, will have an opportunity to benefit from that fertilizer subsidy, Honorable Speaker. Second thing, we have provided money for coffee, Cheriford, Kenya shillings, 3 billion. And Honorable Speaker, we have also provided monies, 2 billion, to start paying the coffee debts owed to coffee farmers, Honorable Speaker, and coffee societies. Honorable Speaker, we have provided monies for sugar reforms, which we continue, Honorable Speaker, to provide for us to continue supporting our sugar cane farmers. Honorable Speaker, we have provided Kenya shillings, 1.5 billion, to act as the defense of raw milk prices, so that the milk prices, the dairy farmers, can get at least 50 shillings per litre, Honorable Speaker, every now and then, even when there is abundance of the feed, Honorable Speaker. We have also provided, Honorable Speaker, monies, 2 billion shillings, that will go into purchase of coolers. There we have a different program before, where Kenya was to have this program with Pollard. And therefore, Kenya was to provide only 10%, and then Pollard was to give us 95% in terms of loan.
Yeah, some 3 minutes to conclude, Chairperson.
Honorable Speaker, what you have done, Honorable Speaker, is to provide 2 billion Kenya shillings that Kenya government will no longer rely on any other country. We want to buy these coolers as government and supply to the farmers of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there was a Maraga task force, Honorable Speaker, that went around the country to look at the situation of our security officers. Security officers are our brothers and sisters, but they continue to live in a manner, Honorable Speaker, that is subhuman. One, because as we know, they don't have a voice, they don't have a union. Honorable Speaker, this House has listened through the Budget Committee to the cries of our security officers, and we have input Kenya shillings, 3.5 billion Kenya shillings for enhancement of salaries for our security officers, Honorable Speaker, in line with the Maraga task force. Honorable Speaker, there are many things we have done, including, Honorable Speaker, monies for aggregation centers, monies for, we have added around 2.5 billion Kenya shillings for aggregation centers. We have added EPs a day, 1.5 billion Kenya shillings for the factories, Honorable Speaker, that have been ongoing across 6 areas in Kenya, and much more. As I come to the conclusion, I want to thank the Kenyan people. This is a period where we must seize the moment, Honorable Speaker. And one way we are doing to seize the moment, the Kenyan government has over 334 entities, Honorable Speaker. Many of the regulations and the registrations we do in this house, we create new bodies. And Kenyan government continues to enlarge, Honorable Speaker. We create duplication. And in that regard, we have started to walk the talk. And in this budget, Honorable Speaker, we have denied 47 entities managed for operations and maintenance, Honorable Speaker, so that we hood them up, we merge them together so that we continue to have a lean government that is responsive to the needs of the Kenyan people. And Honorable Speaker, that exercise is saving us around 7.9 billion Kenya shillings. Honorable Speaker, at some point we have to ask critical questions in this house. In Muranga, in Taita Taveta, you'll have a Kera engineer, you'll have a Kenha engineer, you'll have a Kura engineer. Honorable Speaker, this house will need to ask very critical questions. A Kera engineer, Honorable Mwago in Starehe, do you need a Kenha engineer in the same place? Do you need a Kura engineer in the same place? Some of those questions, Honorable Speaker, are what we must progressively ask ourselves. And this cuts across all other sectors. The waterworks companies that we have in Kenya, the water industry sector only, has got over 20 entities, Honorable Speaker. We have to ask ourselves, do we need these 20 entities or do we need to scale them down? These are critical questions. They are not in the budget now, but I'm just opening up a debate. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honorable Mary Emase, who is the Vice Chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, to second this motion.
Well said, Chairperson. The Honorable Mary Emase. The Honorable Kanchori.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Memusi.
Memusi, standing in front of me. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second the motion on the supplementary estimates. From the onset, I rise to second. Honorable Speaker, indeed we are at unprecedented times, because for the first time in our history, we are revising a budget before even implementing it. And we are all aware that this was I want to start with the phrase that difficult times call for tough decisions. And the collapse of the finance bill and all that has been happening in the country, I think has given us a number of lessons. And even as we were revising the finance bill, we were guided by some of the lessons that we have learned as a house. So we listened and we had to revise this the budget estimate, and Kenyans have told us we need to stay lean, hungry, and responsible. So as the budget committee, we have made cuts, not only on the non-essential expenditure, but also on essential expenditure. As you look at the estimates, a number of envisaged programs that cut across all sectors, be it water, roads, electricity, even industrialization, as we've just had, even the Committee on Trade has complained, and all other sectors have suffered cuts. Honorable Speaker, even corporations, 47 of them are receiving only P&E, personal emoluments. There is one parastatal that is not even receiving personal emoluments as they await the restructuring, the mergers, rollovers, or closure for some of them. So, Honorable Speaker, this House was also not spared. Even the Parliamentary Service Commission, we have CPST, the Proposed Training Center, that is ongoing. And we have a number of projects across sectors that have certificates, have also suffered cuts across board. I don't want to go into the details, but I want to mention one key important aspect. It is important that as we are revising this budget, we need to note that we are revising this budget at a time when the country is facing a lot of challenges. Of course, I've mentioned that we've learned lessons. The country is calling for austerity. The country is calling for accountability. And the country is calling for this House to allocate money in a manner that creates opportunities for the young people, among others. So my call is to those accounting officers, all leaders in positions of leadership, of responsibility, that we must appropriate this money prudently in a manner that will give results. All those who've been appointed to administer the appropriation of this money, make sure you help the president to realize the objectives and for Kenyans to be able to see value for their money. Because Kenyans are still watching us, and they'll continue to watch to see how this money is utilized for the benefit of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, the Budget Committee, we've done our bit. We've made the cuts across board. I do not want to repeat the figures, but it is now up to the individuals who are bestowed with the responsibility to oversight all those institutions, the Auditor General, Control of Budget, among others, ESCC. Let each institution play their role. Accounting officers and all of us, committees, so that we make sure Kenyans get value for money which we are appropriating through this revised budget. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I second.
Thank you, honorable members. Order. Order. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on its consideration of the estimates for financial year 2024-2025, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 23rd July 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Standing Order number 243, 1, approves a decrease of the current expenditure for financial year 2024-2025 by Kenya shillings 38,896,358,312 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule. 2, approves a decrease of the total capital expenditure for financial year 2024-2025 by Kenya shillings 107,445,607,478 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule. And 3, approves an overall decrease in the total budget for financial year 2024-2025 by Kenya shillings 146,342,055,790 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule, subject to paragraph 6, that is the Committee of Supply. And 4, makes the policy resolutions as contained in the fourth schedule. And 5, resolve that the first schedule form the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2024. And 6, orders that the Speaker do now leave the chair to facilitate the consideration of the said budget estimates with respect to each vote and program in the Committee of Supply as contemplated under Standing Order 240, that is, with regards to consideration of supplementary estimates in the Committee of Supply. And the first person to bite the cherry on this would be the member for Aldai. What sort of order? This is your chance to contribute.
Let me raise the point of order, Mr. Speaker, because many of us would like to contribute to this motion, and for the interest of time, because also of the timelines, if we can allow the motions to be 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes. But I think certain issues should have been looked at, because as committees, we start with the departmental, state departments and sagas to be able to rationalize this budget. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done. Member Huisero, Honorable Aseka.
Thank you, Chair. I also join colleagues in supporting the supplementary Budget 1, 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, I think it's in the history of Kenya, a month after the signing in law of the appropriation budget. This is a result of the Finance Act that the President didn't sign it into law, which occasioned a deficit in supporting the entire budget. Mr. Speaker, as the chairman has alluded to it, that despite the challenges that are there, the financial gap and the deficits, the budget strives to ensure that our GSS teachers who've been working, our intern doctors who have been on streets demanding to be posted, this budget has provided funds to ensure that they are accommodated on the payroll. There are doctors and medical workers who were contracted during the COVID-19, who have been working on contractual terms. So, Speaker, this budget has provided funds to ensure that they are also absorbed on the payroll. More so, Mr. Speaker, the budget provides for fertilizer subsidy, which will go a long way in ensuring that this country is food secure. So, Speaker, this budget also has provided money for our energy CDF programs and projects. Despite the loss of about 10 million on that account, the funds are available to support the CDF projects for this financial year. But, Mr. Speaker, as we laud the areas that have been allocated and taken care of, it disturbs my mind, and I may not be an authority on matters economics, but I think also the Treasury technical team is failing this country. So, Speaker, looking at the cuts that were done on this budget, development account is losing close to 137 billion. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, when we reduce economic activities in an economy, it means the economy will not grow. I don't know the wisdom that the Treasury is bringing forward that the economy of Kenya this year will grow by 5.5%, whereas it has gone ahead and reduced about 138 billion from the budget. So, Speaker, Treasury focused more on reducing money for development funded by GOK, but it did not, at the same measure, reduce recurrent expenditure, which we think most monies are lost. Going forward, Mr. Speaker, it is important that the balance must be arrived at so that when you are reducing monies for development, the commensurate should be the same to the recurrent expenditure. So, Speaker, if Government of Kenya will not realize the monies within the Financial Bill 2023, it means the national government will bear the consequence. It is important that as we go forward, county's government should be brought on board so that when the target is not realized, both the county governments and national government shares the spoils. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we rationalize our expenditure, but touching on domestic travels and expenditure also affects the growth of economy. I've read the report from Treasury that it intends to support the economic growth by supporting the service industries. But once the monies that are supporting these hospitality industries are reduced, it means the economy will not grow. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mbafalego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also join my colleagues in supporting the supplementary estimates 1, and to say that these estimates have been done in response to complaints from Kenyans that they don't want to be overtaxed, and also following the collapse of the Finance Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, there have been attempts to address, create austerity measures, and I want to assure members, because I sit in the Budget Committee, that the austerity measures that have been implemented in this budget are real, and as was suggested by Kenyans, there is not going to be continuous largesse in government, especially this House, Parliament. Parliament is been given only resources that they are only going to use to support their operations. There is no excess allocations everywhere, be it in the executive, be it in the judiciary, and I want to urge Kenyans to support this one. Also, Honorable Speaker, you know that this is the first time that the allocations to NGCDF have been cut, and I'm happy that most members of Parliament are agreeable to this because they understand the implication of raising more taxes. So, Honorable Speaker, this budget is basically answering to the needs of Kenyans, and I know that going forward, Kenyans are going to live, government is going to try to live within their means. Honorable Speaker, the other issue that I wanted to address has to do with the public debt, because public debt is a fundamental aspect of this budget. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans don't want us to borrow. Kenyans are tired of these humongous loans. And therefore, Kenyans are saying that we better forego certain services, but we live within our means. So, Honorable Speaker, I know that borrowing has a lot of implications in the money market, because as you know, Honorable Speaker, interest rates have started to rise because of the projection that there would be a lot of borrowing going forward. Honorable Speaker, I wanted to urge the executive that we should try to do everything within our ability not to accumulate more debts, because accumulation of more debts has the opposite effect of, first of all, creating instability in the money market, interest rates going up. If interest rates continue to go up, then you know that the performance of the economy will be affected. Companies that need to borrow money to create jobs, they won't be able to do that, and we are even not going to raise more taxes. So, Honorable Speaker, if there's anything that we can do, and the government can do, and the Treasury CS can do, it has to be something to address the spiraling public debt. And I know that the incoming Cabinet Secretary for Treasury will be somebody who will understand what I'm talking about. Honorable Speaker, I know we don't have a CS Treasury as we talk, but I hear that there's an announcement which could come. Honorable Speaker, if that announcement comes, I want to say that and urge the President to nominate somebody who will be able to address some of these fundamental questions that we are raising to do with the budget. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is a rich country. Honorable Speaker, I have no doubt in my mind that Kenya is a rich country. But if Kenya is a rich country, what is more fundamental is the way we utilize and we allocate our resources. Honorable Speaker, we have said that corruption eats a lot of our resources. But, Honorable Speaker, this is something which this House must help. This House must champion the war on corruption. There is nobody who will do it. This is the House that must do it. So, in order to ensure that this budget is effective, I want to urge members of Parliament to spearhead efforts aimed at addressing the question of corruption. Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Maragua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to contribute by supporting the committee for this overwhelming work that they did to bring out the supplementary estimates for the financial year 24-25. Mr. Speaker, I know this was a tedious work for the committee, whereby you need to look at where to cut, bearing in mind wherever the money had been put, there was a budget towards that. But Mr. Speaker, it's also a good time for our Kenyans to know that if we do not pay taxes to finance the government, then we have to forego some services and development as well. Mr. Speaker, we also remember that it is within the public domain that we are talking of the debt, which is really pinning the government so far at 1.8 trillion. And I know this is not a debt that has been incurred by this Kenya Kwanza government. We have inherited from the government or from the administrations that were there before. But nevertheless, a debt when borrowed has to be paid. And since we are the ones who are there, we have to look at how we are going to pay. And that is why Chairman Appropriation Committee, the Budget and Appropriation Committee, was bringing the highlight that in every 100 shillings, 61 is going to the debt. We are only left to struggle with 39 shillings. And with 39, which is supposed to go to the salaries and all that, and also for the development, then it means there are some of the projects that will stall and others that will move very slowly before we conclude. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy that as we did the cuts, we were able to look at the health, which is paramount, and also education, that we left this so that we may continue with the health docket and the education, which is paramount as far as our health and our children who are in school are concerned. Madam Speaker, allow me to just chip in two areas in support of our chair, where we are talking of scaling down some entities that it seems to double their function to save the government some money. And Madam Speaker, it's not only some entities, we also have some parastatals. Madam Speaker, when we are looking at the audited reports from the Auditor General every financial year, we are finding that there is a lot of wastage, and we are also finding that there is a lot of corruption. And that is why we are saying the Kenya Kwanza government need to put a lot of effort to address and to minimize some of these entities through parastatals that are really not doing a lot when they miss money from the exchequer, and there is no much effort to make sure maybe there is some donation that we are getting so that some of the projects that we have, they may continue. Sometimes, Madam Speaker, you find that there is an entity or a parastatal that started on a contract, and the said contractor has taken the parastatal to court, and you find that they are very hefty fines that are paid, and sometimes you find that there are those projects that were started and the contractor is not really working. And you find that the employees who are there, we are paying them money, yet there is nothing that they are doing. Madam Speaker, I'm Vice Chair to the Regional Development Committee. And when you look at the RDAs, and there are several that we have, the employees who are there, we are paying them. But you find the moment that there is no money in the exchequer towards them, whatever they are supposed to do, they don't do, they just stay idle. We feel for them, and we know the importance of these RDAs, because some of the projects they are doing are to alleviate maybe the livelihood of the community around. But despite that happening, you wonder what happens in a given year.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Malulu Ijendi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Budget Committee for this supplementary budget. Madam Speaker, I just want to share my feeling that it's unfortunate that we're in this state of revising our earlier budget due to the demonstrations that we've been having in the country. Madam Speaker, what I want to maybe state or request the Ministry of Treasury, what we learned during this supplementary budget meetings was that Treasury actually came up with cuts across all departments without actually consulting those particular parent ministries. Madam Speaker, for example, the Committee of Education deals with basic education, TVET, university, and the TSC. Madam Speaker, the principal secretaries, when they appeared before the Committee of Education to discuss about this, it was so surprising that they were not consulted when it came to these cuts. However, we are in this state because we have no choice but to cut because the financial bill was rejected. Madam Speaker, I would like also to thank this committee that because they did not affect the interns recruitment, because this is what we are really fearing that it may happen, because the government had actually promised that after internship of 1 year or 2 years, they would be recruited. So all the 46 of them, TSC assured us that they will be recruited. Madam Speaker, I also want to allay fears as raised by Honorable Suda, that those who are champions in demonstrating over this internship program, the 748, we were assured by the CEO, the TSC, that all of them will be recruited together with the rest to make the number 46. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the Budget Committee. We also noted that during this supplementary budget, something drastic that requires, that's a policy shift had happened, where the school feeding program, which was initially removed completely from the main budget, and Education Committee ensured that it was returned. Madam Speaker, this had been removed again, moved to ASAL Ministry. I want to thank the Budget Committee that this was returned to the Minister of Education to ensure that, because the Minister of Education has all the infrastructure that can ensure this feeding program goes on as it has been going on before. However, Madam Speaker, I would like to note that most of our persons, especially Kenyans, will have to understand that because of this supplementary budget, some of the expectations they have been having from us may not be there as such. You know, for example, the chairman has talked of electricity, which we had promised our constituents, doing roads, which we had promised our constituents. This will not now happen because of these budget cuts. And Madam Speaker, also, I would like to note that during the upcoming supplementary budget, maybe in the month of September, I would that they restore the monies that were allocated, for example, to TVET. Because, you know, we want all constituencies to have TVETs. This will ensure that our youth have proper training. Madam Speaker, all the development budget for TVETs was removed. So which means those constituencies that don't have TVETs for now, those TVETs will not be completed. So we want to argue that when the economy improves, this will be returned, restored, so that we ensure we have proper learning, proper training in our country. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I support the supplementary budget. Thank you.
The Honorable Dr. Pukose, member for NDBES and Chair Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute. First and foremost, I want to congratulate the chair of the Budget and Appropriation Committee, together with the members, who majority of them are actually seated in this house and contributing to the Speaker. As the Committee of Health, which will deal with the rationalization of the budget for the Ministry of Health, both the State Department for Medical Services and the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards, we realize that there are challenges in this budget following the collapse of the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, this finance bill has serious ramifications in the budget, because what it means is that where we were planning to purchase another extra radiotherapy machine for Kenyatta, that has to be suspended, because what it means now is that Kenyatta has a banker which is ready for a radiotherapy machine, but that machine cannot be procured because we don't have the money. And therefore, you have only one radiotherapy machine in Kenyatta, which is working day and night, and if that machine breaks, then Kenyatta National Hospital will not be able to provide for those services. What it means, Honorable Speaker, is that other services within the health sector had to be foregone, because recently we've had interns who are supposed to be posted. The budgetary allocation is 4.3 billion, and what they require is an extra 1.1 billion. And that money cannot be able to be provided because we cannot be able to raise. And therefore, but what we've agreed with the ministry is that they are able to post the interns, all of them, with the SRC proposed salary payout. And then from there, based on the ruling of the High Court in Eldoret, then that will be able now to inform maybe the subsequent supplementary budget to be able to take care of this. Honorable Speaker, we also have other issues. We have the managed equipment service, which is within the counties, and this is providing where you have CT scans, you have SSD for operations in theater, you have theater equipment, which is being operated within the 97 hospitals. You have radiotherapy, you have radiography, ultrasound, and other services which are being provided. These services have continuously been provided, even without proper extension being done by the ministry together with the suppliers, with the challenges from the counties, because the counties have not committed themselves. The county governors have not committed themselves to be able to take over these services, because they are also constrained financially. Honorable Speaker, we also have the rollout of the universal health care through the primary health care, which has now been provided with 2 billion. You have emergency and chronic illness fund, 2 billion, and then the primary health care fund, 4 billion, and you have the social health insurance fund, which is supposed to be rolled out. All these, Honorable Speaker, are challenges that cannot be able to be met because of rationalization of the budget. But all in all, I think with the rationalization of budget, what we went into doing is to make sure that critical services within the ministry are not severely affected, and therefore we were able to give money to institutions like Biofax, which is in the process of vaccine manufacturing, and as you are aware, the donors are in the process of withdrawing. And therefore, we need to be able as a country to manufacture both our own vaccines and also vaccines to prepare for any outbreak of future diseases or epidemics. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Martin Peter Owino, member for Diwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this motion. And also I want to thank the chair of the Budget Committee for his prowess, knowledge, and also passion on this chair. Madam Speaker, I have about 3 items to highlight after my chair for health have highlighted on our committee. Number 1, Madam Speaker, a reduction of budget does not really mean wastages, theft, and duplications is taken care of. I would like to urge our friends, my colleagues in different departments, and also the watchdog committees. It is our responsibility to oversight properly so that the departments or all the entities that this money is heading to is managed well. Madam Speaker, it's good that we also made amendment to our standing orders that we get reports every 3 months. If we stick to that and follow carefully these entities that use these monies, then we will prevent wastages, we'll prevent theft, and also overlapping or duplications in implementing the programs. The other thing, Madam Speaker, is about the Treasury. As we speak today, the